Call the roll.
Can I just a couple of minor things
Senator
here?
Dutton, of course, please.
I appreciate what the intent was for 1608. I do have David Warren Peters here with the Lawyers Against Lawsuit Abuse, who I contacted for some technical assistance. Now, all of us know when we pass a law, then we leave it up to some agency to implement. And sometimes what we discuss here in this room, this committee room, and then vote on the floor doesn't always see its way. So I think what I like to do, because there's a couple things, 1608 didn't have any anti-abuse provisions in it that we could find. And the citizens in the commission that you're talking about, you ought to get a report from them, because what I'm hearing is that there's no clarity coming. So while I think the intent of the law was good, in practice it doesn't seem to be making it their way. But I'd like to have if you'd allow me to have Mr. Peters just give you a couple other things you might want to look at, because I do think you ought to review 1608 at least, because frankly, here's what's happening right now. One of the typical defenses you have going on, this I do know, is to just go ahead and not do anything, because eventually you'll be able to settle up for X number of dollars, and it's probably going to be cheaper than what the ADA compliance thing was required, or it won't achieve. So in time and energy, just will cut your check. Well, that doesn't give you more access. That didn't solve the problems, and this is what's happening in practice. If you would do something like this and you actually give them a breathing room before they actually have a lawsuit filed, you'll find that they'll probably solve a lot of these things. Plus, we've got cases out there where people are making a career out of just filing actions or serving letters and then being paid extortion. So there's things happening out there that was never anybody's intent. And so I do think we need to take a look at it. But if Mr. Peters could comment on a couple of technical aspects, I'd appreciate it.
All right, we'll allow him to do it very briefly. Limit your testimony to 2 minutes.
Very briefly, Senator Corbett, if I could clarify, Corbett. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The gentleman, Mr. Kim, who was talking about the two lawsuits, one was in 2009, one was in 2010. He was CASP inspected before the 2010 lawsuit. I think his mention of 2008 was that we were talking about SB 1608 and that it passed in 2008. But in any event, he was sued in both cases after SB 1608. I also wanted to comment.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. I also wanted to comment that a number of people suggested that there were existing remedies and that they were adequate. For example, one that was mentioned was the remedy of vexatious litigant status. My understanding is that if a litigant is represented by an attorney, it is nearly impossible, in state court, it's nearly impossible to get them designated a vexatious litigant. It can happen in federal court, but of course, since these cases are being filed by the hundreds in state court, that's not an effective remedy. And in fact, given that California is the only jurisdiction on the planet that has imposed, say, a bounty on these claims of the $4,000, it does seem that my understanding is that there is no reform in the SB 1608 agenda that will address the abuses that have been discussed here.
Better wrap it up, sir. We've got about 30 seconds.
Okay. And SB 783 will accelerate progress, because right now most defense attorneys tell their clients once a lawsuit is filed, don't make a single change. Under the catalyst doctrine, it could assure the plaintiff their fees. With this letter, if you don't make changes, a lawsuit will be filed. Therefore, the odds are that the changes will take place much more quickly rather than years down the road or even not at all under the current system. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Please, Senator.
I would just like to ask you a question. First of all, I think it's an unfortunate use of the word bounty. It's not a bounty, what you referred to. That's just your characterization of that, and I just don't think that's appropriate.
I'm sorry.
However, you know, prior to this hearing, I've not been given any specific information in the failure of a CASP analysis. Mr. Kim's comments, that's first impression for me. And I would be very glad to talk to Mr. Kim and determine what his experience was with regard to the CASP program, because obviously we want to make sure the CASP program is working. And Senator Dutton, if you'll allow me to make that connection, I'd be glad to take a look at that.
We'll make sure that happens.
Yeah, that would be great. And if there are problems with CASP, then maybe we can take a look at it. But it's kind of hard to analyze it when you're just hearing it for the first time here. I would have loved to have heard about that in advance, and maybe we could have had a longer discussion about that. So I look forward to that conversation.
Any further questions or comments from committee members?
Yeah, and just real quick in summation, yeah, my reason
Sure.
for going forward here is to bring it to your attention. I was never to try to undo anything. There is a current problem out there, and so, yeah, I'd love to have the people that contacted me. This is something that just started happening that I became aware of. That's the reason why I put it into special session. So I will make sure that they give you the information they've provided me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we're ready to open the roll. Please, Madam Secretary.
Evans, Harmon.
Aye.
Harmon, aye. Blakesley, Corbett. No. Corbett, no. Leno. Leno, no.
That bill has 2 votes. It's on call. Assembly